Hello and welcome to the morning after show presented by betonline.ag. My name is Joshua Reimer, or you can call me a depressed 49ers fan today. I'm joined by none other than Jared Block, who's over on my right. Jared, how are you doing, man? How was your weekend?
Weekend was football per usual. The last weekend of football for me until the Super Bowl. 25 straight weeks, I think it was. And then it's
No.
it's like I don't even know the last time I was able to do something on a Saturday. So this weekend was nice in that regard. But yeah, no, it was a very, very solid day of football. We thought that last weekend was the pinnacle, something that was going to be impossible to chase down and beat, and we were proved wrong yet again. So both games fantastic, and we have a Super Bowl matchup to talk about now.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun one. It's the last weekend of football for both of us essentially, and it was awesome, man. It was a great season for us. I think a lot of our members would say the same that we kicked it out of the park this year, and it's going to be fun to talk about this Super Bowl game because man, I don't think anyone expected it to be Bengals versus the Rams, but here we are. Let's cover this first game and let's talk about what happened in the Bengals facing off against the Chiefs. Good morning, Bacon. Thank you for hanging out in the chat. Like you say in your notes here, Bengals best Chiefs in Arrowhead secure third Super Bowl bid all time. Last time they did this was 1989. So been quite a while since the Bengals had a visit to the Super Bowl, and they find themselves here now. So obviously it was a great win. It was a great rally against the Chiefs too.
Yeah, fantastic rally against the Chiefs, and now I was waiting for the I was waiting for this whole wait until people talk about and complain about the overtime rules yet again for the second straight week in a row.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the Chiefs, so the Bengals won and deserved this game just as much as the Chiefs blew it. And I think that we can make that pretty clear. It's not a Chiefs loss. This is a Bengals win, in my opinion. So I give all the credit to the Bengals, who actually did lose a weapon during the game as well. And they weren't really doing much in the first half. Down 11, just like they were in the game that they sealed the AFC title, or the AFC North title. And yeah, just give all the credit to the Bengals here. The Chiefs, they'll be back in this spot next year, but it's this one's gonna sting them for a very long time. I saw a comparison. Obviously, I get a lot of Packers news on my timeline. For those that can remember that far back, this one was compared to the Packers' loss at home against Seattle to send them to the Super Bowl for the first time. I believe that was the Marshawn Lynch game where they could have ran it at the 1 yard line. That's that season.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely comparable for sure. I don't know what to think about this Chiefs team right now because I've talked about it a few times. I've been pretty bullish on saying their seasons are numbered at this point, considering the fact that this defense is getting pretty old. You have to play Mahomes so much money right now. It's a good chunk of your salary cap. Do you think they return next year to the AFC Championship and have that same success next year?
I think that they certainly can. The only problem is that the last couple of years it's been basically just them overpowering everybody, and the defense definitely put on they definitely held their own over the past 6 weeks or so. But this year they have had to deal with a lot of issues mid-season. They were basically left dead like week 6, week 7. The only and this is I thought about this yesterday, and I was like, I wonder if Josh would consider the turning point of their season the day that we were there, because I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
it was. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that it was. And we talked so much crap about their team, and then all of a sudden here they are. So I think that has to do with us, unfortunately.
I think
Um,
so. I think
so,
you're right.
but the problem with the next couple of years is that they have the Bengals, who aren't going away anytime soon. They have the Bills, who aren't going away anytime soon. I think the Chargers can always make a run in their own division. We'll see what happens with Denver. We'll talk about what happened in Vegas this past weekend, because nobody will remember that because it was so under the radar. And then you still have to worry about wherever Deshaun Watson goes, but you have a lot of powerhouses, and don't forget about the Ravens, who basically were just left out to dry due to all the injuries that they had. So the problem with the Chiefs is that there's just going to be so much more competition now than there used to be, and maybe they won't get to the championship game every year.
Yeah, and I mean you made a great point. It's always been about this Chiefs overpowering other teams, and How likely are they overpowering a Bills team that only adds more weapons and only gets younger next season? How likely are they to overpower? Obviously, they can't overpower this Bengals team because we saw the Bengals come back and play really good defense in the second half. So, like, I don't know. I think it's a tough road ahead for this Chiefs team. I think especially with everyone getting older, like I said, Kelsey getting to a little bit older age. It's a tough one for me personally to see this Chiefs team continue to have so much success. I think you see them fall off a little bit here.
Yeah, I could see them doing that. A lot of it has to do with one, maybe the ageless Travis Kelsey. He looked just fine last night.
No,
But then you had, I mean, you're going to get to a point here where the cap just doesn't make sense for this team. And they had that miracle run of 2 to 3 years where this is kind of the back half of that. And they have to figure out how they're going to make things work, what pieces they want to prioritize. And we'll see how it goes. But I think that they'll be at least playoff relevant for the next half decade plus.
yeah. Let's talk about a mistake, or what seems like a mistake as you're looking back that this Chiefs team makes. It's the end of the second, or it's close to halftime, and you're driving down. You're on the 1 yard line as this Chiefs team, and you end up trying to go for a touchdown. Doesn't work out. You end the first half not scoring. Now, obviously, you look at this in real time and you think like they're already up by what? They're up by 11 at that point or more. I don't know how much they were up by. They were up by a good margin at that point.
Yep.
So like you look at it and like it made sense to try to take more of a lead, but now you look back at it after the Bengals have won. This feels like almost a colossal mistake, right?
Massive mistake. Now, I don't know if this was Andy Reid, if this was Patrick Mahomes improvising, whatever the case may be. Some like most of the time that play works during the regular season, right? But I
Yeah.
think that the Bengals did a fantastic job of seeing that coming and noticing tendencies. And again, I don't know 100% who actually made that decision, but if it was Andy Reid, that was your worst decision of the entire year, and that's one of the many reasons that your team lost the game yesterday. This is when being a coach that's overzealous becomes a little bit iffy, and we saw that a couple times this week. And we'll talk about McVay and how he basically was chasing challenges the entire game. Now,
Yeah.
when it comes to Andy Reid, it's like he does so many awesome things that you don't expect. But this one just is plain obvious, man. Like you're up 11. It's almost the exact same scenario as 3 weeks ago when you guys played this team. Now you're at home. Your kicker's made some huge kicks to get you this far. Just trust in his leg, and they should have just taken the easy chip shot, got the 3 points. That takes away a couple things. One, gives you a bigger lead coming into the second half. Two, motivation. You basically turned the tides in Cincinnati's favor without them even doing anything. And three, I mean, Cincinnati's not able to run the ball in the second half if they do that. So that's how I kind of determine this. And you didn't really see Bengals do much in the first half. You could tell Burrow was irritated. You could tell he was flustered. You could tell that the game might have been too big for him in the first half. The second half, totally different story, and I think a lot of it had to do with that missed opportunity there.
Yeah, a ton to do with that missed opportunity. Just want to talk more about Joe Burrow and just saying like how incredible he was in the second half of this game. I mean, he seemed like at times the best quarterback on the field compared to what Patrick Mahomes was doing throughout the second half. Um, like Burrow's been amazing. And I feel like we kind of discredited him at the beginning of the year because we were worried about the injury, because we were worried about all that stuff. But he has proved everyone wrong, and it's amazing to see him here. And he's really clutched up in basically every game so far in the playoffs.
I mean, yeah, there's not much more you can say. The dude is literally like, I might have to go as far as to take it back immediate conversation for this year. That Burrow is number two, and you can honestly make a case that I don't know. Can you make a case that he's number one? He did beat
No,
number one,
I don't
so
think so. But
yeah, I
maybe,
agree with
maybe.
you. Well, technically, he's. I would still consider Josh Allen a better like a QB that I would want to focus
Yeah,
my team around. But he has this way of commanding the locker room and commanding a team that he's had since before he was even quarterback at LSU. I actually just saw a video this morning of him doing the ice bucket ALS challenge
I saw that.
and naming the next guy to do it, Urban Meyer. So that was
Yeah.
kind of weird to see. But yeah, he's basically been that dude since he was like 17 or around there, and it's just been crazy to see him evolve. The only issue that I ever see with Joe Burrow, and hopefully he proves me wrong on this always, is that he's just older than everybody else. He's
Yeah.
25 years old. He, you know, this is his what, third year in the league?
Second year.
Um, second year. You're right. He got hurt in the first year. But still, 25 years old. The window of time probably gets elevated just because of the nature of the game, the medicine, and all that stuff. Sports science. He's probably in his prime for another 5-6 years. Maybe he proves me wrong on that. But the issue with this always is that the window is just shorter for this Bengals team. Now it helps with Jamar Chase being as stud as he is, but they have offensive line issues. You saw how much pressure the Kansas City Chiefs put on him the other day. He was able to make some amazing escapes out of the pocket. Chris Jones had him like 3 or 4 times, and he was able to escape for first downs to extend drives in the second half. Now, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being pessimistic, but the age thing here is always going to get me because he was a very, very late quarterback coming out of college.
Yeah, I'm curious. Do you know off the top of your head how old Mahomes is or how old Josh Allen is?
Yep, Josh Allen, 25 years old. He's actually like 6 months older than Joe Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
And then Patrick Mahomes is 26.
26. Yeah, so a couple seasons less for Joe Burrow, even though he's at the same age. I definitely understand what you're saying.
Yep, Justin
I don't.
Herbert, 23.
Yeah. So, God, Herbert's so young. That's insane. But yes, I understand the concern. I think that if this Bengals team ends up getting more offensive line pieces in the offseason, that's how you really shore up this team and make it a true contender for years to come. But it's about finding those right guys that you can bring into the offensive line. But like you said, Burrow he's amazing at kind of commanding the locker room. And I think it spoke volumes yesterday just when he was trying to get interviewed at the end of the game. Joe Burrow went around to his teammates instead of getting interviewed and was congratulating all of them and saying thank yous to everyone. And it was just, I think that's a truly special moment where you realize, oh, wow, Joe Burrow is really a leader of this team, uh,
Yep.
more so than many other teams. So it was awesome to see. All right, anything else on this Chiefs and Bengals game? If not, we have to talk about a segment that I think I'm not looking forward to whatsoever.
Yeah, shout out to the Bengals defense for possibly putting on one of the greatest playoff defensive stints of all time. Like, people won't talk about that whatsoever. They'll talk about Burrow's second half. But holy crap, man. Like that stand that they had against Mahomes, forcing him to fumble and basically almost out of field goal range. That was one of the greatest things I've ever seen from a defense against the Chiefs, like this Chiefs team, because you're talking about one of the best red zone offenses in the last decade and plus. Like, I can't believe that they were able to put up what they did.
Yeah, I will say this before we move on, and this is one of my biggest hot takes, and I was talking about it with buddies yesterday. Hendrickson and Hubbard are is the has to be like a top three edge duo in the league right now, and no one gives them the credit they deserve. But Hendrickson and Hubbard literally carry this team at points, and it's absolutely fantastic to watch. I've been all over Trey Hendrickson all year. I said early on that this was one of the best signings that they could have made for the defensive line, and Hubbard's been amazing as well. So I'm excited to see this defense is really good. If you freaking replace Eli Apple at corner, you could have a really special
Yep.
defense.
Yep.
Eli Apple, possibly one of the worst starting corners in the NFL right now.
Yeah, also makes one of the best plays of the game yesterday. So
Yeah, I know, right?
it's kind
So
of
it is what it
but
is.
whatever. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this other game that went on yesterday. Niners and the Rams faced off in SoFi. They faced off for the third time this season, and Niners end up falling short to the Rams. Niners, incredible season, won 9 of the last 12. Were underdogs basically the whole way along, and still found ways to win game in and game out. Um, let's talk about this Niners team first, and talk about Jimmy G, because I know it's the first thing that we're going to bring up here. It seems almost certain that Jimmy G's days are over as a Niner, right?
You could tell after maybe it was just sinking in for him, or maybe it hasn't sunk in all the way, but you could tell on the broadcast that he knew that he had played his last snaps.
Yeah.
And as a franchise, we already talked about this. You guys are set up regardless of win or loss, and it was just whether or not you could maximize get as most out of Jimmy G as possible. And I will like I know that you probably differ from me in saying this, but I think that he had a pretty solid game, man. I think that he made one or two key mistakes, probably underlying mistakes, probably in the amount of like 3 plus, but it's still like you can overcome the underlying mistakes like a missed throw here and there. He did do a couple of those, so I'll give him that. But the interception at the end is something people are going to talk about. But like how many I grew up with Favre basically throwing the game away half the time, and he didn't do that. It was a tip interception, still trying to keep the play alive. He knew he couldn't take a sack, so it's like okay. But yeah, no, I think that he played a pretty good game, and he basically followed the game plan. And if not for Cooper Cup, I think this game's totally different.
Yeah, man, if not for that whole secondary, shame on us for. I saw this on TikTok. I think shame on us for letting Baker Mayfield's poor quarterback play make us think that OBJ was washed because clearly the guy is
Yeah,
just as good as
yeah,
ever. It's amazing to
incredible.
see him play. He made a lot of really impressive catches that
Yep,
a lot of players wouldn't have in that role, and OBJ seemed like a just an amazing addition for this team because he looked phenomenal yesterday, and the whole receiver crew did. Even their backup tight end after Higbee went out looked really good in
yep.
Banton. Um, this Rams team is well set up. Um, but yeah, going back to Jimmy G, very quick. Yeah, Kai said OBJ is owed hella apologies. I completely agree.
He
Going back to
certainly
Jim,
is.
going back
Yep.
to Jimmy G. We'll touch on the Rams in just a second. But going back to Jimmy G, what do you think the Niners get for him? Because I've seen a lot of reports saying that a late first round pick is almost certainly in the cards for Jimmy.
That's it. I
That's
feel like he
it?
did. I feel like he needs more than
Really?
that. Yeah.
I mean, a first
Like,
round pick in this day and age is gold, especially for a
like
team that doesn't
all right,
have a first round pick.
fair. I mean, so here's these two quarterbacks are totally different quarterbacks. And I know that I don't want to give this person like the highlight of the world here, but um, Colin Coward said last week on his show that if you are Russell Wilson and if you are the general manager for the Seahawks negotiating trades for Russ, you say, and this is very outlandish, but he said
I saw
you
this.
you have to give me one first round pick every single year that Russell Wilson is your starting quarterback until he retires.
No, I saw that. That's insane. I mean, like Wilson's great and all, but like that's a lot of first round picks, most likely.
I know. Yeah, okay. I mean, like, so I think that it would be stupid to not get a second, plus
Yeah,
plus a few other really solid pieces. I mean, it's not about money. It's more about just getting you have a guy that's taken your team to the Super Bowl and then 2 out of the last 3 NFC championships. Like that deserves some credit. That's like more than Russ money, in my opinion.
yeah. I mean, hey, you're not
Like
wrong.
again, wins are wins. Like I know Russ is
Yeah,
more talented, but wins are wins, man.
yeah. I've been on the train all week. You've heard me fight with Sean about this, saying that it doesn't matter what you say about Jimmy G's talents. At the end of the day, he wins games, and that's all that matters as a QB. I don't know. It's super interesting. I can't wait to start seeing or hearing trade rumors and all of that circle around Jimmy G. But I'm sure they're going to find a home for him somewhere. And wherever they do find a home for him, it's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. Should be interesting. All right, let's talk about this Rams team because man, Stafford played amazing. That defense was absolutely phenomenal for most of the game. Um, this Rams team is was kind of we talked about it at the beginning of the year. They really did push all of their chips in to try and get to the Super Bowl, and they've completed their goal. They've got into the Super Bowl. So now the question is, can they win it? We know that BetOnline already has them lined as I think 4 point favorites in this game. Might be 4.5 point favorites. Um, man, they played an amazing game yesterday for sure.
Yeah, they did very well. The OBJ stuff needs to be reconciled for sure. 9 for 113 for Odell.
No.
Insane. Like that is the guy that like obviously was going to take a few weeks, and people, including myself, slandered that. to get him to where he needed to be. Now he's there, and he's able to take extreme pressure off Cooper Kupp, who went bananas. Kai, I know we had this conversation yesterday, so shout out to you. He basically said, "What does Kupp have to do to earn a roster spot on for DFS?" And I was like, "Play the Niners. That's all he has to do."
Oh,
And
jeez,
sorry,
my soul.
like he can't. He just couldn't. Nobody could take him, and nobody could take Odell either. Like he got like you could see. I don't. Who was the corner? Was it Mosley? I don't want to. It was somebody. Like they made a certain point in the second half where Odell basically acted like he was running a fly route and then cut really quick to the sideline, and then the very next play he just ran a skinny post, and like the corner is just giving him 10, 15 yards because he just thinks that he can get outran. Like these two wide receivers are insane together. And Van Jefferson didn't even do much, but he extends the field. You got Tyler Higbee who goes down. The running game is non existent. It was just a really good display of the elite wide receiver talent that they have.
Yeah, I mean, really, really good weapons here. We've always known they've had solid weapons, and so to see it wasn't that surprising. But you really saw OBJ step up. You really saw the backup tight end step up for this team. You really saw everyone step up, and it's not that hard to pass against that Niners secondary, especially when you're not creating a lot of pressure. Because Niners, they've created pressure all throughout the playoffs. They certainly did create some pressure, but I think the end number was that. Stafford had like 44 dropbacks and was only pressured on like 10 of them. So I don't know. When you can't get that pressure off, it gets really hard to beat a team like that when your secondary has always been lacking and has been lacking all year long.
Sure. Yeah, I mean you guys take pride in your front four, and it's just I think the Rams ended up winning the battle, at least in the air. Did a good job of limiting the ground game, which is what the Rams try to do, and that's how they try to win. And then on the other side too, I mean Mitchell, geez, 11 carries for 20 yards is not
No.
going to get the job done. So I know that Debo looked better than him in all facets of the game, but that was very strange for me to see you guys kind of abandon that towards the second half.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it was just running with who was hot. And Jimmy, you said it good, well. Like Jimmy did have a pretty good game. There were definitely mistakes made. I talked about it with you before the show. He missed Kittle on that opening drive, which would have been a touchdown if he just hit him in his
Yep.
gloves. And there was a few other mistakes here and there. Some throws in the double coverage where it was like, why would you throw that ball? But it was a good game by Jimmy G, and he made a lot of good throws as well. And so I think they were just trying to rely on what was hot, and Eli Mitchell certainly wasn't hot yesterday. So I guess this brings into the question: you have Raheem Mostert coming back next year. You have
Yep.
Trey Sermon still on the roster, and now you have Eli Mitchell as well. Is Eli Mitchell going to be that bona fide RB1 like we all expected him to be when we were talking in the regular season?
I think Eli Mitchell's still that guy. I don't know how you trust Raheem Mostert anymore. Um, if you're in, I don't know. I mean, I'm not there evaluating during camp and all off season, but Eli Mitchell has proven to be that dude, and it's only gonna, I think Niners running backs are kind of like you have to take it with a grain of salt a little bit, and it does seem like they are used as bell cows for a year, and then things change. I don't know. I don't. The Trey Sermon obviously was the draft pick that they thought was going to take them in that direction, but injuries and Mitchell just powering his way up the depth chart makes a lot of sense. You have Jermichael Hasty, who we all thought was going to be involved in that too. He ended up being on like the guy that tipped the ball on the last interception. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see some shuffling of the 49ers running back group, but one thing's for sure, I think that Trey Lance starting is going to affect how we view the running group of this team. Um, question: if Jimmy does not say that pass goes incomplete and they just turn the ball over on downs the next play, does that do anything for his namesake? Like if he doesn't throw a pick at the end of the game?
I don't think so. I think at the end of the day, that like it's fourth or it's gonna be if you go down on downs, it is what it is. But like you got to throw it all out there, and I think he was just trying to get to someone that was open in hopes. It's like Jeez, I'm losing my. It's like when you get a kickoff return and like you're doing laterals to try to get it there. Like obviously you could lose the ball, but you're just trying to win the game. I think it's kind of falls into that category where you kind of just lay it all out there, and if you get picked off, you get picked off. It is what it is. I don't think it does much for his namesake though.
Yeah, for sure. Kyle wants to know Debo and Cordero's success. Who's the next wide receiver, running back, combo player in college football? Also, shout out Ty Scrib. Thank you for the tier 1. Appreciate you.
I have it. I already have it in my mind. It's great. I saw this question and I was like, perfect. I get to talk about one of my favorite college football players in the world right now, one of my favorite draft prospects in the world, Wandale Robinson. Look out for this guy coming out of Kentucky because he is the next Debo. I feel so confident in this that, he was able to be a great wide receiver at Kentucky. He was able to play that running back role basically all throughout his college days. Wandale Robinson is that next guy who's going to play that role. And I'm excited to see what team he goes to because, man, the wide receiver class this year is kind of juiced, but Wandale's really, really good, and people are underrating him right now.
Yeah, I watched the Kentucky bowl game where it went down to the wire, and he was like the dude the entire game. So that
Yep.
was cool to see that. But I mean, I would agree with you. I don't really know anybody else who has that kind of skill set coming up here because normally it's just like one position, right? But I think this guy can do quite a bit. Do you think that these NFL coaches come in to, or have these players come in and they think that they're already going to give them a dual position, or do you think it's something where it's learned over time? Because like Cordell Patterson's been this Swiss Army knife dude for forever, but I feel like and same thing with Debo, like he didn't come in as a running back. So
No.
how do you think? Do you think it's scheme? Do you think it's like perfect balance? What do you think it is?
I think at the end of the day, it's just realizing how good a player is at having the ball in their hands and wanting to give them more opportunities to have the ball in their hands. I mean, that was always the thing with Debo, right? Like the reason we moved him over to running back is because he is such an elite talent, and Jimmy can throw somewhat, but most of the times he's not the greatest passer. So like just getting the ball in Debo's hands more often, allowing him to make those electric plays. I feel like it's something that just you want to get your top guy as many touches as possible. You want to get those electric guys as many touches as possible. At least that's the case with Debo. I think it's something that just happens over time and gets schemed in.
Yeah, Kai says Percy Harvin. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can make the case that Tavon Austin was another guy that I think one of the most electric college campaigns ever, Tavon Austin. And same with Percy Harvin too. And they just, I mean, like they did transfer over, but I don't know if they transferred over to the point where it's gotten with Cordero and Debo. And you have to credit a lot of those for those guys. Like injuries definitely put them in that position, but they excelled. And I think it's just wear and tear too. Like
Yep.
Debo's a monster, and Cordero's huge as
Yep.
well. The other guys are a little bit smaller.
Yep, for sure. All right. Let's talk about the Super Bowl a little bit more. Talk about where BetOnline has this opened up. I was wrong. I said it was 4 points. I thought I saw somewhere where I said it was four
No,
points,
you're
but
right. You're
oh,
right.
it is? Okay. So Rams
Open
four.
at 3.5, but yeah.
Okay. So I was close. Rams 3.5 point favorites here. The sportsbooks say that the home field advantage is not included. I'm curious to hear why, because maybe it's just, the Rams being the Rams in SoFi. Maybe they expect Bengals fans to really show out here. But I feel like, I don't know, Rams definitely have home field advantage being at SoFi. So,
Right. So that was a point made on emphasis by Caesars, and basically every single team or every single sports book kind of backs that once they make that decision. So if I remember correctly, maybe I'm wrong here, but I think BetOnline and most, like, they have the Bengals as technically the home team, right? I'm pretty sure the AFC has the home team.
yes, I think you're right there.
So like I don't know, maybe it's not correct to say that they get home field advantage like the Rams don't. I don't know. Like I
Mm,
think that the Rams crowd definitely wasn't as impressive as I thought yesterday.
hmm
I think that the Niners definitely showed out, and the whole thing about them not allowing 49ers fans backfired tremendously.
Yeah.
But the Bengals are technically considered the home team here. to give the Rams 3 points is, I don't know. I mean, I think this line's pretty. Um, I would say it's pretty accurate. I think you're still underestimating the Bengals, though.
Yeah, I would tend to agree that you are underestimating the Bengals, and I don't know. I'm going to be a Bengals fan here. I don't know what side you're leaning, but I'm on the Cincinnati Bengals side, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a fun game
I
to
feel
watch
like,
for sure.
yeah, the entire country outside of like 2 or 3 cities in LA are Bengals fans.
Yeah, I think the Joey Burrow culture is really just taken over the world, and I think everyone wants to see him win. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can do that. All right, we still have more NFL news to talk about, even though we're done with Super Bowl talks now. Raiders hired Dave Ziegler, who is the Patriots director of player personnel, and they hired Josh McDaniels. The Josh McDaniels hiring, it should be really interesting to see what him and Carr can cook up for this offense for years to come, because I feel like that is a great hiring right there.
This is the perfect under the radar piece of news that people are going to completely forget about. This
Hmm.
happened Sunday morning, I believe. Regardless, it happened like no one cares about a hiring right now.
No.
All they cared about was what happened yesterday. And the fact that you were able to get Dave Ziegler, who has been in the Patriots system for years, in a very, very high position under Bill Belichick, now goes to the Raiders to take on that destructive franchise. And you have Josh McDaniels to come in and hopefully do. I feel bad a little bit for Rick Bisaccia, but hopefully they still give him a position within the team because I do think that he really encompassed the players. So we'll see how it goes, but I do think this is a fantastic year for the Raiders. And spoiler alert, the draft is in Vegas this year, so I think that they are
No.
lining up some pretty awesome things for that team. So I think this is a very, very huge signing for them. The only thing that I could see going wrong here is McDaniels can't do it on his own for whatever reason, and I don't think so. The pump fake thing didn't happen this time. There was a
Yeah.
pump fake last year or 2 years ago, but with this whole McDaniels situation, but two Patriots coaches moving over, or two huge pieces of the organization moving over to Las Vegas makes a ton of sense for that team. Kai says that Bisaccia should have been head coach. I definitely don't disagree. I think that if you look at what he was able to do and rally the team around in the second half of the year, get them to the playoffs, get them to who made the Super Bowl, like one down away from beating the Bengals in Cincinnati, like that takes a lot of he needs a lot of credit there, and I hope that he does get some decent position within that organization because he should be.
Yeah, I'm sure he will get some decent position in the organization. I'm sure they're not going to ditch him, especially because, like you said, teams really rallied around him. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Raiders do. But I like the hiring of McDaniels. I think it makes a ton of sense. And him and Carr, I just think is going to be phenomenal. I mean, we already talked about it, how Carr, one of the more underrated QBs in the NFL. And it should be really fun to watch. So I'm excited for it. Last thing before, well, you don't have it included in here, which kind of has me scratching my head a little bit. But the Tom Brady pump fake, we didn't get to talk about this yet.
Yeah. Okay.
What the heck happened here, man? So we get a tweet from Adam Schefter. Of course, we get a tweet from Adam Schefter, and it says that Tom Brady has retired. And I take my victory lap in the Good Skill chat room. I don't know if you saw my victory lap in the Good Skill chat room, but I took it. And just saying, like, yeah, I called this on T-Moss. I really thought that this was going to happen. I felt pretty confident. And we had all these Twitter accounts come out posting stuff about Tom Brady. We had the NFL tweeting about it. We found out a little bit later that the Bucks were not informed. And so people were kind of scratching their heads wondering, wow, Brady liked the Bucks. Why were they not informed about his decision? And then we get a tweet later on by Tom Brady's agent saying that Tom Brady had called the Bucks GM and said that he was not even close to making a decision yet on the retirement. Now, what I heard is that the reason he didn't want to announce it yet is because on February 4th, he gets 15 million of his 20 million signing bonus, and if he
That's right.
retired he'd forego that little signing bonus. Not little, that's
Yep.
a lot of freaking money. So it might just be a thing where he's waiting out and we might hear it a little bit later, but like uh, what happened here, man? I'm just so confused by the whole situation even still.
Well, I think somebody in his circle just leaked it out, or somebody within that's close enough to Tom Pelissero's and Adam Schefter's inner circles made them believe that he was doing that. Maybe it did come. Maybe this is like Tom is not dumb, right? I think that he always tries to find a way to make himself slide in and be relevant. And maybe he's better than some people, but like this goes back to the whole like they didn't release the last episode of Man in the Arena because there's a rumor that he physically announces that he retires at the end of the documentary. Maybe that gets released on February 12th, and then everybody talks. All they can talk about during the Super Bowl is the fact that Tom Brady retired.
Yeah.
Like something like that's gonna happen. You're gonna have him do like 20,000 crypto commercials during the Super Bowl. Like all the hype's gonna be around that. And he just got 15 million the previous week from his signing bonus. Like all this stuff is calculated, right? And I think that he had a plan going in, regardless of whatever happened within the playoffs, if they got eliminated early, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know. The conspiracy theorist in me says that this is a plan all along.
Yeah, hey, I think it's definitely interesting, and you're right that Tom Brady always wants the stage, so maybe that's what this all came down to is him still wanting the stage. All right, anything else for the NFL? I guess you do have some announcements to make about what we plan on doing for the Super Bowl. And a lot of those announcements coming next week, but just a few teasers for the people in here.
Sure. We aren't going to announce much this week as far as rolling things out. Yeah, Goosty, exactly right. You said if I can't be in the Super Bowl, I'll make sure they talk about me regardless. Yeah. You know that he has like 15 slots of crypto commercials lined up. It's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening. So I think that I was always on the case of on the side of him playing through a year of like age 45 because that's what he had said he was going to do. Now, does things change with Gronk and the family, and maybe he just doesn't have like the fire anymore? Who knows? I'm never gonna say like he's already played past anybody's expectations. So I think that just going out the way that he wants to go out is probably what he's gonna do, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was within a few days of the Super Bowl, just to make things relevant and spicy one more time. So that with that being said, as far as Super Bowl stuff, we again aren't going to roll any of this out this week. It's all going to start on Monday of next week, and we're going to do things every single day leading up to the Super Bowl. But we do have things including Super Bowl squares like we did last year. We have a props contest with betonline.ag. Shout out to those guys. By the way, some of those props are already up, so we can always talk about some of those things. Coin toss, obviously a big topic of conversation. Those odds are already up for the Super Bowl. So, yeah, and they have like winning margin. The crazy prop stuff doesn't come out just yet, like the Gatorade color, like the anthem, like all that other stuff. So, a halftime show props are going to be nuts this year because honestly, if you're not a Bengals or Rams fan, you're tuning in just for the halftime show because who doesn't want to see who's going on with them? If you don't know, it's Dr. Dre, Snoop, and Eminem.
Yeah.
So it's going to be awesome. So those props are going to be really fun. I can't wait to bet on like what color hat Snoop Dogg wears. Like that's one of my favorites on the halftime show stuff. So we're going to be doing that props contest. We'll do special announcements in the Discord. We'll do package giveaways. There's a UFC pay-per-view watch party the day before. Like we have a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a really fun time in a couple weeks.
It is going to be a very good time. Can't wait for what the Super Bowl has in store. I can man, I want to see if there's going to be a prop bet for halftime that says our NFT is going to be involved or not because I have this feeling that if you look at the cast of who's going to be on this halftime show, you see a lot of Bored Ape holders. So maybe we see some NFTs involved.
I mean,
It'll
Snoop is
definitely.
one.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. All right. Anything else for the NFL? If not, we can talk about everything else that went on in the sports world this weekend.
Yeah. Other sports happened this weekend.
Yeah, surprise to everyone. UFC didn't happen this weekend, but we had a lot of other stuff happen this weekend, including the NBA happening, and some crazy stuff went on. We had the Warriors and Nets face off against each other. We had Embiid continue to be absolutely amazing. But let's start out with the Jazz yesterday. They ended up losing to the Timberwolves, but they found out that Joe Ingles might be suffering a severe knee injury. This Jazz team has been battered and bruised. I mean, Donovan Mitchell has been out for I don't know how long, and we always consider this Jazz team like a perennial top four seed. Are they going to continue to be that with them suffering so many injuries this year?
I think that they'll battle through, but at the end of the day, it's all about can you escape the second round of the playoffs for them.
Yeah,
So we'll see. I don't know. I think people are starting to, um, you know, line up specific playoff scenarios where they end up facing this Jazz team because I think that they can be exploited at this point. You have Donovan Mitchell dealing with concussion stuff. Side note, not to get too far down the rabbit hole here, but at what point are we concerned about the amount of concussions that Donovan Mitchell has had so far in his career?
some point soon, man. It's been a lot. Like it's starting to get scary. So it's going to be interesting to see when he gets back, and when he gets back, is he going to be the same player? I'm not sure that he is. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see with this Jazz team what happens with this Jazz team. We also got the news that Dan Snyder entered COVID protocols. So Jazz really going through it with injuries, COVID, and all that.
Yep. Not even did he have concussions that have put him out for multiple weeks, but he's played through the games that he's got the concussions in.
Yeah.
And they've won both of those games, I believe.
Hmm.
Big games in that. So I don't know, man. Sean's always on this fire everybody on the Jazz, the medical staff because of these decisions, and I don't know. They're kind of taking a beating right now, and they've been pretty lucky up to this point. I believe when they got the Rudy Gobert positive that they hadn't had any COVID issues before that. And now you have a bunch of these injuries and these just unfortunate things happening to the starting lineup. And they are a deep team, so I think they'll be okay during the regular season. But when it comes to things that matter, it's going to be. I think that they're another second round exit, maybe even a first round exit this year.
Yeah, definitely. There is some potential for that. Let's talk about more injuries that went on. We got the news that Shea Alexander went down with an ankle injury. He's not expected back until the end of the All Star break. So, big injury. We were seeing Shea have a career year with how he was playing, especially over the past month. He's been absolutely phenomenal. So, this is definitely going to hurt the Thunder, and it's going to be interesting to see who the Thunder make their main guy. Maybe it's Josh Giddey time finally.
Yeah, I think it could definitely be Josh Giddey freedom season. By the way, sort of two pieces of breaking news. So we're meeting our quota here.
Oh yeah.
Joel Embiid is out today, so
Hmm.
that's fun. And then the second thing, going back to our point earlier, the Las Vegas players have made their voices heard, saying that they are disappointed in the team dismissing Bisaccia as head coach.
Gonna be interesting to see more developments on that because it's gonna be interesting. It's never a good thing when your team isn't able to get behind a new head coach. There usually problems come after that, and so it'll be interesting to see more developments on if they're able to get behind McDaniels. But definitely meeting our breaking news quota for the day. Any other thoughts on SGA before we move on to the next topic of NBA?
No, I mean, he was probably going to be named an All Star for the maybe not a he wasn't obviously a starter, but he probably could have been named an All Star and maybe at the very least a reserve. So unfortunate for him, but he's going to be out at least probably until March.
Could have been a starter over frickin' Andrew Wiggins, but that's a
Yeah,
day.
I
That's a
mean,
story for another day,
he
I
can play the
guess.
three. Yeah, he can
Yeah,
play the three. Why not?
yeah, exactly. All right. Speaking of Embiid, we know he's out today, but we found, or he's been amazing over the past month. He was once a 50 to 1 odds favorite to, or not odds favorite, but he had 50 to 1 odds to win MVP. Now he is the favorite at plus 175. So we've
Yep.
seen Embiid completely turn the corner, and he's been amazing. He's been trying to best Joker, and I don't think he's done it necessarily. I'm still willing to take that Jokic bet, but I'm curious to see where that Jokic bet is at now with Embiid being the favorite.
Yeah, so player futures here. Joker is plus 275. Giannis is plus 325. Curry is plus 375. Those are the top four, and then things really take a dive. Excuse me. They really take a dive. John Morant's plus 1200 after that. So it's going to come down to the big men. I still think Giannis has a chance, but I don't think he's going to play enough games to compare with the other two. And then Curry, I mean, if Draymond's out, Curry's not winning MVP. So it's kind of as simple as that, in my opinion. And it'll come down to these two big guys. And I think that both of them are their teams heavily rely on that's basically their playoff chances in a nutshell. So we'll see Embiid sit today. A well-deserved day of rest for him. They do
Yeah.
play the Grizzlies, though. He would have smashed in this spot. But anyway, we'll have to decide if we want to play Andre Drummond against Steven Adams, which is a fun conversation for you to have later.
Yeah.
And then we'll see Joker battle the Timberwolves tomorrow. So will be interesting to see. It's going to be a game-by-game thing. I think that the odds swing every single time one of these players has a big game. So wouldn't be surprised to see come Wednesday's show that Joker is the MVP after a huge night, potentially against Karl Anthony Towns on Tuesday. So
No.
we'll see. It's kind of a numbers game at this point. Personally, I would not take Embiid at this number. I think that if you didn't take him early on, that there's no point of chasing it anymore. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I think that Joker still has the better money here, and I would disagree with many that say that Giannis is the front runner because I don't think he is at the moment. He's just missed too much time, and the Bucks have kind of been an afterthought, which is kind of weird saying that after they won the title. So, but they have been, and he has not been at the top of just the media and everything else. And I think media drives everything, and they're so enthralled in this big man MVP race that seems to always happen now over the past several years. So, do you think somebody else outside of Embiid and Joker take the MVP?
No, I think it's between these two guys. I don't think there's much of an argument that it is between these two guys. I think even if Dre does come back for Steph, I think Clay being on the floor with him is just too much. Like, too many guys to share the ball with. Clay has a huge usage rate. We've seen that with Steph. We've seen his usage rate. Excuse me. It's gone down to like 25% with Clay on the floor. So, like, it just doesn't work out with both of them on the floor. They both can't. You can't have Steph be the star player there. Meanwhile, Jokic kind of has the floor all to himself, and Embiid somewhat has the floor all to himself. And it's going to be interesting to see, but I think it's between the two big men. I don't know if Giannis really has a chance, considering, like you said, we know he's going to get sat here soon, and I think it's tough to say that it's tough to say that one of these two guys don't deserve it.
Yeah, for sure. It's just crazy that he was a 50-1. Now he's the favorite, which sometimes happens.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead. Let's continue talking. We got about 10 minutes of the show left. The Kings walk away from Ben Simmons' possible trade talk. The actual term, I believe, that was used was they gawked at the price tag. So
Well,
surprises there. I mean, there was talks about sending a bunch of the Kings players all over the place in a multi-team deal.
yeah, I know Barnes is going to go places. I know that, there's heel talks, and I'm sure there was picks in the conversation as well. So this price tag is going to be high, and I don't think they even trade Ben Simmons before the trade deadline. I think Ben Simmons gets traded in the offseason for James Harden in some type of mega deal between those two teams. That seems more where things are leaning rather than Ben Simmons getting traded to a team that isn't really going to compete, like the Kings, like the Thunder, teams like that. Really doesn't make much sense. So, um, it's interesting, man. I don't know. I'm not surprised. Like I said, I don't think Ben Simmons gets traded.
Yeah, the trade seemed to have been something like, and this is obviously not just Kings Sixers straight up, but Harrison Barnes, Buddy Hield, Rashawn Holmes, and some picks,
Yeah,
which is a
that's
lot.
that's a
It's a
lot,
haul.
man.
And obviously other teams are involved in this too, but the Sacramento Kings have uh, basically ended those talks themselves. We are less than 2 weeks away from the trade deadlines, February 10th. So it's going to be crazy, outside of all the Super Bowl hype and UFC hype and possibly Tom Brady hype. Now we're gonna have NBA trade deadline all in like a span of 4 days. It's gonna be
Yeah.
nuts.
It's going to be a little bit mind-boggling, but it's going to be a good time for sure. All right, last thing for the NBA, and then we can move on. James Harden sits the weekend, found out that he had this hand strain, and he's been dealing with it for a while, and then they gave him an MRI on it and found out, oh, that's way worse than we thought it was. We need to sit you. And so Harden could be out for a little bit with that hand strain. But we saw Kyrie kind of be the solo man against the Warriors, kind of hold things together until, well, he didn't. And then he also got to play on the road against the Wolves, or against the T Wolves. It's gonna, man, this team is battered and bruised. Like, this Nets team is really struggling. I mean, KD, we know he's out for a while now. We know Harden could sit a while with this hand strain. It's gonna be a struggle spot for this Nets team for sure.
Yeah, they will. They're gonna. I don't know. I never know what to say about this Nets team, just because I'm just rooting so hard against this not working. I've been that from the start. I've thought that. I mean, they obviously were a Durant shoe away from going to the NBA Finals. So um, I can't wait to see it all implode for them. Not gonna lie.
All right, we know Jared's feelings about the Nets now.
Have to play. Well, we'll see the Kyrie Irving show. We'll see what this experiment's going to be like because they do play several games on the road. They play the Suns tomorrow, and then they go and take on the Kings, which is going to be obviously something to highlight for DFS. And then after that, they have a few days off, and I believe their next game is, if I can even find it, it's far away. Like, what is their schedule this week? They do play the Celtics, which is going to be a game that Kyrie Irving cannot play in because it's at home. Do you think he takes the fine intentionally to play the Celtics?
I mean, if no one else is available, like if everyone is out, then they might just take the fine and just go with it because I don't think you can. I don't think you can just roll out this team without any of the big three.
Okay, so I missed them on a few games, but that was mostly a revenge situation for me. Like I
Yeah,
would
no,
love
it's
to
a good
see
point
Kyrie
too.
go against the Celtics.
Yeah,
Anyway, so the Nets have the Suns on the road, the Kings on the road, the Jazz on the road, and the Nuggets on the road. So they do have the toughest back to back in the league. Friday, they don't. It's not even a back to back. Sorry, it's Friday and then Sunday. But you're going to see Kyrie Irving for 4 games straight here over the next week.
should be really interesting to watch and should be I know. I'm kind of excited to see this Nets team implode as well. So it's going to be a fun thing to watch for sure. All right, really quickly, let's go over NCAA and talk about some men's basketball. Not there was a lot of there's a lot of ranked teams playing against unranked teams, but we did see some ranked teams fall, especially on Saturday. We saw Tennessee end up losing to Texas. We saw LSU lose to TCU. We saw a top 4 seed, right? We
Yep.
saw Baylor lose to Bama. So
Yep.
lots of teams went down this weekend that were ranked,
Oh,
and it's going to
so
be
if that
interesting
goes
to see where
85, that
it
makes
comes
you.
out.
Yep, absolutely. Several close games on Sunday between ranked teams. All the favorites ended up winning. Purdue beat Ohio State late in the game, and then Wisconsin beat Minnesota, and then Providence beat Marquette. So we're going to be doing these top 25 recaps. It takes like 2 minutes
Yeah.
throughout the rest of the month. As we get close, I think we're about 3 weeks until the first conference tournaments start happening.
Wow, that's insane. That doesn't feel real. But yeah, you're right. It's right around the corner. I mean, next month is tomorrow's February, and then March is coming up. So March Madness, only a month away, and that's definitely exciting to see. Um, all right, let's do our NHL blind dogs. We always promise to do these NHL blind dogs. I don't know how we did Friday. I'm sure it wasn't that well, but you don't know either because I see our records are the same. So hopefully someone can update us on how we did with NHL blind dogs. But let's pick our blind dogs for today. Who do you got?
I remember looking at this on Friday night being like, well, never mind. I guess I lost again. Oh yeah. We both lost. Um
Sweet.
I picked the Rangers. They lost to the Wild 2-3. I know this because I picked the Rangers and then the show ended and then somebody from the Radar Sharp Edge uh area in the Discord said, hey, is this a really good time to exploit the Rangers? The Wild are coming in super hot. And I was like, oh, well, great day to bet
Nice.
on the Rangers. Also, shout out to the Radar Sharp Edge group. I know there's only a few of you guys in here right now, but we have an announcement coming out in a couple hours pertaining to that. So,
Ooh,
for the
fun.
couple of you listening, there's your heads up.
Yeah.
Um, and then you had the Dallas Stars saying that you had, or maybe you bet against the Dallas Stars or on them, one of the two, but you picked that game, right? Pretty sure you did.
I mean, that's a good question. I think I picked against them. That sounds more right.
Okay, well we'll have to see what the odds were for that because either way, regardless, it went either really good or really bad for you. Because
Okay.
the Capitals won 5-0 against the Stars.
I'm pretty sure I
So
bet on the Capitals. Maybe I'm wrong there. I don't
we'll listen back to the Friday show and see what it was.
Yeah,
So
dude, if I
you
win,
know,
I'm on a little hot streak. I'm like 7-9. I'm almost 500 here. If you consider the fact that I'm betting on underdogs, I'm probably up if I was actually betting on these guys.
with that record, yeah, I mean, you only have to win like twice a week tops to make 500 money.
Yeah.
So we have 5 games today. Again, haven't even looked. I'm still on the MVP screen for NBA, so we'll go over here. Okay, 5 games on the board. Massive favorites on the board as well. All right. Well, Detroit is considered an underdog, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess kind of. I mean, barely by a point right now. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I know this is gonna burn me, so I won't do that. I'll go Blackhawks plus 100.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Blackhawks plus 100. Anthony said, "Good luck, have fun on the underdogs today because they are awful." So, you went Blackhawks. I'm gonna go Ottawa Senators at home against the Oilers. We'll see how it goes. Probably not very well, but we'll see how it goes. All right, Jared. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, man?
No, just appreciate everybody hanging out. I got some DMs from the football community. We're basically done.
Yeah.
And we have the Super Bowl, obviously, but that was kind of the last more than one game slate that we're gonna have. The Super Bowl is always fun. I smashed it last year. I think I provided 4 FanDuel lineups and they all cashed because of
Nice.
Gronkowski last year. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. We're having teams that now have had players injured that we don't know are 100% willing to go. Like I don't think that either team is going to have their starting tight end for the Super Bowl. I think that Higbee
Yeah.
is probably the more likely to go. I think Uzama is done for the season. He got carted off in the first quarter. But also, shout out to Variance for biting my ass one more time. You couldn't go out without having me do one more bad thing for my lineups. Both
Yeah.
tight ends that we went double tight
Uh,
end yesterday. Had Uzama and Higbee both go down in the first quarter with what
awful.
appears to be season-ending injuries. So also Cam Akers left the game for a stint and came back. I mean, these teams are kind of banged up at this point, but we'll see how they progress.
They have 2 weeks to get healthy, so at least they have some time. It's going to be interesting to watch. All right, let's get out of here. I have no final notes. Except for thank you to our sponsors over at betonline.ag. You can see in the chat that the link just got posted because Nightbot's amazing. If you want to go sign up with them, deposit $50, get a little bit sprinkled on by them, and then you can bet on some of our picks. Hey, you could probably bet on my blind dogs and do pretty damn well. So, something to consider at the very least. But as always, my name is Joshua Reimer. Good morning and good skill.